Hello students, this is going to be part 3 of chapter 7, that is control and coordination. In the previous chapter, we have learned about the role of receptors and the structural and functional unit of nervous system, that is about neurons. Here in this video, we are going to start with the parts of nervous system and human brain. Like we have a system of blood vessels which is present throughout our body. Likewise, we have a system of nerves or neurons which is present throughout our body, that is called as nervous system. So in this picture you are able to see the system of nerves which is called as nervous system, right? So this nervous system is categorized into two types. The first one is called as central nervous system, and the second one is called as peripheral nervous system. Correct. So this central nervous system constitutes brain and the spinal cord. Brainstem connects the brain to the spinal cord. Now, as in this picture, you are able to see that this is brain and this is a spinal cord. So whatever information is reaches this spinal cord, the spinal cord sends the information via the nervous system to the brain and take back the information into the spinal cord. And then it gets connected, the nerves which are coming out of the spinal cord, which are called as the spinal nerves, they get connected to the rest of the parts of the body through the peripheral nervous system. Correct. So this brain and spinal cord are connected to the cell, tissues and organs through the spinal nerves or through the peripheral nervous system. And their main function of the central nervous system is to control all the activities of the body. Hence, it is called as a body's master control unit, because it is controlling all the activities of the body. So whatever information from the cell, tissues and the organ reaches to the central nervous system, just remember the central nervous system means brain and the spinal cord. So whatever information reaches to the spinal cord, that information is sent to the brain for processing, and from the brain it comes back to the spinal cord, and then it gets connected to the cell, tissues and organs of the body. And this connection of central nervous system from rest of the body is done with the help of the peripheral nervous system. So this nervous system actually connects the central nervous system to the rest of the parts of the body. Now, this peripheral nervous system is divided further into autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. So they actually carry information for voluntary as well as involuntary actions. So the information which is coming out of the central nervous system, which is coming out from the brain to the spinal cord and then to the rest of the body, that can either be under your control or it can not be under your control. So some actions, the information which is coming out to the cell, tissues, they will be either voluntary or it can be involuntary. So those peripheral nervous system which are controlling your voluntary activities, okay, they are called as somatic nervous system, right? And those peripheral nervous systems, those spinal nerves which are coming and connecting in order to regulate all your involuntary actions, that constitutes the autonomic nervous system. Now involuntary action can occur either in the stress condition or it can occur in the rest condition. So those which occur under the stress condition, they are regulated by the sympathetic nervous system, and those which which occur during the rest situation, they are called as parasympathetic nervous system. So if you see, there are various involuntary responses which are occurring in the stress condition, which are regulated by sympathetic nervous system. Like whenever you are in the stress situation, you are in a fight or a flight mode. That means either you will fight with the situation or you will flew away from that place, right? And during such situations, when you are so much afraid, you are so much in the stress condition, so automatically some involuntary activities happen which are not under your own will, like dilation of pupil. There is increase in the diameter of your pupil automatically. There is inhibition of your salivation. That means your throat will get dried. Increase in the heartbeat. Automatically your heartbeat increases. And in order to bring back you from the stress situation, parasympathetic nervous system regulate back back your body from the stress situation to the normal situation. And when then what will happen, your pupil will automatically come back to the original size. Stimulation of saliva and slow heartbeat. And here are list of some activities which are regulated by the parasympathetic nervous system, and here are set of activities which are regulated by the sympathetic nervous system. Correct. So it is simple nervous system wherein what happens, information from the cell, tissues and organ moves via that, the information is transferred via the peripheral nervous system or through the spinal nerves into the spinal cord, okay, or to the central nervous system. And then central nervous system, what does central nervous system do? It will transfer the information to the brain for processing. Then the processed information come back to the spinal cord, and then via the peripheral nervous system the responses occur. Now in the central nervous system we have it constitutes brain. So if you see, the brain weighs almost 1.3 kgs. The weight of your brain is 1.3 kg, and it is protected by a bony structure which is called as skull. The skull is made up of total 22 bones, out of which 8 bones are involved in covering your brain and 14 bones are involved in covering your face. Okay, so this serves as a protective covering around the brain. Below the skull, there is a membranous layers which are present above the brain and below the skull. They are called as meninges. The outermost layer of meninges is called as dura mater. So this blue line which you are seeing, this is the outermost layer of meninges, that is called as dura mater. The middle layer is called as arachnoid matter, that is this orange line is arachnoid matter. And the innermost layer is the greenish line which is called as pia mater. The space between the skull and the dura mater is called as epidural space. The space between dura mater and the arachnoid matter, that means this space between blue and the orange line, the space is called as subdural space. And the space between the arachnoid matter and pia matter, that is the space between the orange line and the green line, it is called as subarachnoid space. All these spaces are filled with a fluid which is called as cerebrospinal fluid. So there are so many protective covering around the brain. First is your bony structure, which is skull. Below it we have membranous layers which is called as meninges, and in between the meninges there is a fluid which is filled, which is providing an extra protection to your brain, which is called as cerebrospinal fluid. But where is this cerebrospinal fluid produced? So there is a structure in the brain which is called as brain ventricles. There are 4 brain ventricles, that is 2 lateral ventricles, third ventricle and the fourth ventricle. They are the site for production of the cerebrospinal fluid. What is the function of cerebrospinal fluid? It acts as a cushion and protects the central nervous system from trauma or shock. It provides mechanical buoyancy and support for the brain. You must have heard about Archimedes' principle, right? Just see. And according to the Archimedes principle, you must be knowing that any object, if immersed into water, it experiences less weight, okay, due to a buoyant force. So this arrow indicates the buoyant force, which is, this is a buoyant force which is acting on the object. And this buoyant force is actually equivalent to the amount of water displaced by the object. Okay, so that is why, since our brain is also immersed in a fluid which is called as cerebrospinal fluid, okay, we do not experience the weight, because the weight of brain, I have told you, that is 1.3 kgs, but we do not feel the weight of the brain. It is because the brain is immersed in a fluid which is called as cerebrospinal fluid, and that is why we are experiencing less weight according to the Archimedes principle. It nourishes the central nervous system. It removes all the harmful metabolites, all the harmful chemicals which are produced in the central nervous system. And lastly, it serves as a pathway for pineal secretions to reach the pituitary gland. If you see the pineal gland, which is located in the brain, it secretes a hormone which is called as melatonin. Okay, so this is melatonin, and this melatonin uh, not only regulates the sleep and wake cycle, okay, but it also inhibits the secretion of the pituitary gland. So the hormone which is secreted from the pineal gland, it moves via the cerebrospinal fluid to reach the pituitary gland. Okay, so uh, so these are the functions of cerebrospinal fluid, and it acts as a additional protection against the, provides additional protection to the brain. Now we will see the parts of human brain. So human brain is divided into three parts: the forebrain, midbrain, and the hindbrain. So this forebrain is further divided into cerebrum, which you are able to see, this convoluted structures which you are able to see. This is called as cerebrum. Then we have bilobed structure. This structure is called as thalamus, and below at the base of the thalamus we have the hypothalamus. So these three parts together is called as forebrain. Then we have midbrain, which is purplish in color, and then we have hindbrain, which is made up of three parts. That is, first one is your cerebellum, then pons varili, and then this part is called as medulla oblongata. Correct. So if you see this cerebrum, okay, let me show you. Okay, if you see this cerebrum, right, if you see the cross section of a cerebrum, right, and let me take this color. So this cerebrum, if you cut this portion, so but you will be able to see this cerebrum is divided into two regions. So this outermost region, this much region, okay, the outermost region of the cerebrum is called as cerebral cortex. So this is called as cerebral cortex. Okay. So this is called as cerebral cortex, and the inner region, this region is called as cerebral medulla. So this is called as cerebral medulla. Okay. So this cerebral cortex looks, almost gives a grayish appearance, hence it is called as gray matter. It is called as gray matter because of the grayish appearance, and this grayish appearance is due to the presence of cell body of the neuron. Cell body of neuron. Okay. And this medulla region, this is called as a white matter, okay, due to the presence of fiber, which is it is due to the presence of fibers of neuron which is present in this area. Okay, so the cell body is present in this region and its fibers or the axonal fibers are present towards the medulla region. Hence this region is appears to be grayish in color and hence called as gray matter due to the presence of cell body of the neurons. And the medulla region is appear somewhat whitish in color due to the presence of fibers of the neuron. Okay, so okay, right. So now we will see the functions of each and every part of the human brain. The first part is your forebrain, and inside the forebrain we have cerebrum. So cerebrum is a seat of intelligence concerned with mental ability, thinking, memorizing, learning, and consciousness. So if you see this cerebrum, this portion, this is divided into various lobes which are concerned with different functions. So the first lobe is called as temporal lobe and it is concerned with the sense of smell, hearing and helps in understanding of the speech. Then we have the frontal lobe which is concerned with memorization, learning and reasoning and coordinates with the speaking. Then third lobe is called as parietal lobe, which is responsible or which is concerned with the sense of pain, touch, temperature, and pressure. It also has a gustatory area, which receives the sense of taste. Then we have the last portion that is called as occipital lobe, which is concerned with the visual perception. The second part is your thalamus, which is located between the cerebrum and the midbrain. So if you see, this is midbrain and this is your cerebrum. So thalamus lies in between cerebrum. It lies between cerebrum and the midbrain. The main input center, thalamus is the main input center for sensory information going to and from cerebrum. So whatever the sensory information comes, it first comes to the thalamus and then it goes to the cerebrum. And the processed information from the cerebrum first enters into the thalamus and then it moves out. Damage to the thalamus can lead to coma. Then we have hypothalamus, which is located at the base of the thalamus. So if you see, hypothalamus is located at the base of the thalamus and it regulates all the secretions of the pituitary gland. It is the main center for homeostasis, thirst and hunger. Then we have midbrain, which is located between the hindbrain and the forebrain. So this is your midbrain and this is your hindbrain. So this is located in between hindbrain and the forebrain. All sensory and motor information that travels between forebrain and the spinal cord passes through the midbrain and it acts as a relay station for the central nervous system. So this midbrain, so all the sensory and the motor information, if you see, which is entering between information that travels between forebrain and the spinal cord passes through the midbrain. So it is acting like a relay station for the central nervous system. Then we have the hindbrain. So the first part of the hindbrain is your cerebellum and it is concerned with all the voluntary movements. It helps in maintaining the posture and body balance. So whenever you are riding a bike or you are on a cycle, you are able to maintain your balance because of the cerebrum. You must have seen people who take alcohol. So that alcohol actually affects the cerebrum and that is why they are not able to maintain their own body balance. The second part is your pons varili, which is that is a regulatory center for respirations. So it has the points for regulation of the respiration, that is inspiration and expiration. Then we have medulla oblongata, which coordinates all the involuntary movements such as swallowing, sneezing, coughing, vomiting, etc. Thank you, and stay tuned for part 4 of the video. If you have any kind of a query, you can put down your question in the comment section. Thank you.